Starting with the assignment number 2, part 2. Question number 7. What is the difference between a static website and a dynamic website? A static website is any website that has fixed and stagnant content, usually written in HTML code. Every web page will have the code written separately, just as you see it on the web. Every page has to be separately uploaded on the server. Changes have to be made manually every time, and you need to have the coding knowledge to make any and all changes. Looking at the pros, it is easy and cheap to develop. The cons are the changes and updates are very time consuming since it is a lengthy coding which is needed for a static website. For making any change, it requires a web development expertise to update the site. And since it doesn't have any database, the contents can get stagnant and eventually it will become out of date and people may start calling you are a stone age man. Let me give you an example. Homepage is an website which has been uploaded on the server. If I'm going to the next website, gallery, see the entire address has changed and a new website has come. And the database is not changing, the entire website has changed itself. Moving back to the presentation, what is a dynamic website? A site whose construction is controlled by an application server processed by server-side scripts like PHP. The pages of the website are not coded and saved separately, rather they are saved there itself. The designer template is saved separately. The corresponding content are saved separately in the database. The pages are dynamically updated every time since it comes from the database. The pros are they are much more functional websites. The data which is stored there is organized and structured. The content management system is done at the database level. There is no ongoing cost unless the basic design needs to be changed or an extra capability is to be added. The cons are the design is more fixed than static websites since the basic layout of the page will remain the same and the database will change only. The cost is high in the initial stage. Again, let me give you an example. This is an Amazon site. If I go for a racket, and moving on to the price low to high, you see the layout of the page is the same, just the database, the the organized database which is there with the Amazon, it has changed the layout of the items. So this is what a dynamic website looks like. Moving on to the next question, what is the difference between a compiler and an interpreter? If we look at the input, the interpreter takes single instruction as input and the compiler takes entire program as input. The object code, there is no object code in interpreter part, whereas a compiler gives an object code after the entire compilation. The control statements like if statement, the conditional statements, there is a sluggish execution of them in the interpreter, while they are executed very quickly in the compiler. The higher level program is converted into lower level program in interpreter every time a statement or a function is run. But for a compiler, it is a one-time job. Moving on to the next question. What is an open source language? Like PHP, PDF. Open source language refers to a programming language that falls within the parameters of open source protocols, which I will be enlisting them soon. This basically means that the language is not proprietary and with certain provisions, depending on the open source license, can be modified or built upon in a manner that is open to the public. The rules are: the source code must be open and accessible to all. The derived works must be an open source again. The languages must be freely distributed. The integrity of the source code must be maintained. The licenses must not restrict other softwares to be made, and they will be again be open and free of cost. What are prime numbers? First, we need to understand that a number is prime or not. So prime number is a number which is divisible by 1 and itself. The examples are 2, 3, 5, 7, and so on. If you want a logic, we have 1. Initialize an integer and give it a value as 2 because 2 is the smallest prime number, and we will check it until the number which is into consideration, and it will go up to its half value. For this for loop, every time the value of c will be increased by 1. What it checks that starting from 2 up to the half value of n will check whether the remainder comes 0. If the remainder comes 0, then it is not a prime number because it will be divisible by another number. But if it doesn't find a number, then it is a prime number. What are LCM and HCF? Who are they anyway? The lowest common multiple for 12 and 15, which we have taken into consideration, is 60. The highest common factor is 3. We have a logic for the HCF, taking n1 and n2. Here we have n1 as 12 and n2 as 15. Is n1 greater than n2? No. So else n2 will be equals to n2 minus n1. So n2 will get a value of 3 and n1 will get the value of 12. Now again the loop will go on and n1 will become n1 minus 2 because since it is bigger. So it will keep on going until it will become 9, then 3, then 6, then a 3, then again 3, then a 3. But now the statement is broken. So the value of n2 is 3 and hence the HCF will be 3. For the LCM, we have this formula and LCM can be computed similarly. Next question, what is factorial? Get a high from this factorial because he is going to explain what he is. Factorial. For 1 it is 1, again 2 it is 2, 3 it is 3 into 2 into 1, and it goes on. There is an exception that 0 has a factorial of 1. Looking at the logic for the computation, take an integer and take the factorial number, initialize the value as 1. Take an input for the number. Make a for loop, initializing the value of I as 1, increasing it by 1 every time, and iterating it up to the number. So the factorial, take an example of 3. So factorial will be equal to factorial into 1. So factorial right now has the value of 3. In the next loop, I will become 2. So the factorial will become 2 into 1, right? So now it will get the value of 2. Now again it will become 3. The factorial itself has a value of 2. Now the number is 3. If we multiply it, it will become a 6. But that is all for what the for loop will run, and the factorial will come out to be 6. Thank you for listening. Till the next time.